Sister of murder accused Guyana Defense Force Sergeant Gregory Smith, Ann Wagner, on the cross-examination at the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, said she warned her brother about his involvement with the Working People's Alliance, WPA. She told the commission on Wednesday, March 25, that after the WPA abandoned Smith in Trinidad following the June 13, 1980 killing of Dr. Rodney, he had no other alternative but to return to Guyana and rely on the said WPA members for help, since he was afraid to trust other persons.
Did he make you to understand that the WPA people abandoned him in Trinidad?
Yes.
Did he make you... Sorry, sir.
Could we explore what, if she knows, what were the brother's expectations in Trinidad in relation to the WPA?
Well, Chair, it's in the book. In other words, the book indicates that he was to be met by various persons and be assisted by persons on the boat, then on arrival in Trinidad, and so on and so forth.
I had particular reason for asking you to explore that. Anyhow,
I'll return to it if necessary, Chair. Did he indicate to you that on his return to Guyana, the first place he went was this house where WPA people were?
Yes.
Did you question him about the wisdom of rejoining or going back to the same WPA people who had abandoned him in Trinidad?
Yes, I asked him that question.
What was his explanation, ma'am?
His explanation was that he didn't know where he could go because he couldn't trust anybody. And he was afraid. So this is why he decided to go back to
the same people that had abandoned him.
The same people to find out exactly what happened and why it happened.
Did he not have family, including the father, but others in Guyana at the time?
He had a brother. His father, he didn't grow with his father, so he would not have gone to his father. My brother didn't have too many friends, and he didn't one of those people to socialize. He didn't have many friends.
So he told you he had no one he could trust in Guyana at the time?
That's right, he was afraid. He was afraid for his life.
Question is not whether he's afraid. Question is whether he had anyone he could trust in Guyana in June of 1980.
I would say he didn't have anybody he can trust.
Attorney representing the interest of Donald Rodney at the commission, Andrew Pilgrim, during his cross-examination of Wagner, sought to discredit the book, Assassination, Cry of a Failed Revolution, on the grounds that it is based primarily on an account only from Smith's perspective. Smith's sister told the commission that she did not want to arouse persons' suspicions while she was writing the book because she was afraid that her life would be threatened. Wagner accused the Working People's Alliance of setting Smith up and then abandoning him with the stain of murdering political scholar Dr. Rodney by disguising an explosive in a communication device, causing his gruesome death.
When did you first hear that your brother was linked to the death of Walter Rodney?
I heard right away.
What do you mean by right away, the 13th?
When Dr. Rodney died?
You heard immediately on the 13th that your brother was involved?
On the news.
I'm sure the people who are recording are having a difficulty. I've seen it arise even in relation to me when I've asked questions and not waited. So I'm going to ask both questioner and questionee. Don't overlap each other too much.
Try my best, man.
Slowly, please.
Try my best.
This is important. She says that the brother was called, Gregory, and told that there's a window of opportunity. We need to have it now. I'm sitting in this chair, but as a cross-examiner, I want to seize on that. What is this window of opportunity?
So it's all in the book, sir, and she can't comment on it?
No, but I want her to about the book. She's here talking about it. What did she understand by it? Forget the book for now. She's on the stand. Lot that is written in the book, she says she did not write. I want her to tell us what was her understanding of this window of opportunity, and when was that about in relation to her learning of Walter's death?
You tell the chair.
No, you pose the question.
No, I beg your pardon. The chair is asking you, what did you understand by this window of opportunity?
Well, my brother told me that Donald came to their house, and Walter called him and tell him, there's a window of opportunity, I must have this
Ms. Wagner,
triggering device.
you are repeating what you said, and you are repeating the words window of opportunity, and what you say was said to you. What you're being asked is what was your understanding by the use of the words window of opportunity. We must have it now. What was your understanding?
My understanding of that is that there's a chance that we got now, and we got to do what we got to do.
So you couldn't go beyond got to do what we got to do.
Yes.
And what is it that they had to do? Come, stop speaking.
I don't know. I can't answer those questions. This is Dr. Walter Rodney's baby. He knows what he had to do. He know what window was where the opportunity was, which window was open or closed. He knew that. I don't know that. My brother didn't know that.
Can I ask something?
Please, ma'am.
You did tell us that you were talking to your brother before June 13.
Yes.
And you did say that you discussed with him the requests that, according to him, Dr. Rodney had been making of him and his response.
Yes.
But what happened on the 13th of June? That is the discussions about the window of opportunity.
Right.
That came to your attention after the death of Dr. Rodney.
Yes.
So I want us to have the dividing line.
Yes.
The things that you knew before and the things that came to your attention afterwards.
Yes.
So this whole thing about window of opportunity and the conversation which your brother said he had with Donald on the 13th are things you learned of after the 13th.
Yes.
But the other things about the request to make the detonator and then the trigger
that
were
was before. Yes.
I just wanted to get it clear.
Thank you, ma'am.
When did you first learn of your brother's involvement in the activities of June 13th, 1980?
The same day that Dr. Walter Rodney died, I heard it in the news.
That same day?
It's all over. It was all over the world.
That Gregory Smith was involved in the death of Walter Rodney?
That Dr. Walter Rodney was dead.
I'm suggesting to you, madam, that that is false. How do you respond to that suggestion? You didn't hear anything about...
What specifically is false? When she heard
you didn't hear on the 13th of June of the involvement of Gregory Smith in the death of Walter Rodney.
So when I heard it...
I am suggesting to you, you didn't hear on the 13th because his name was never called on the 13th. Do you agree with that or disagree?
Look, this is 34 years ago. I can't remember. It could be the day after or what, but I heard it very, very soon.
Could it have been a week after?
I can't tell you. I heard it though.
It could be the
and
day after.
I heard it through the media. This is how I heard it.
I'm suggesting to you it wasn't in the media at all for at least 4 days.
Well, whenever that time was, this is when I heard it.
In your book, Gregory Smith says he read the newspaper on the Sunday and it made him angry. I'm suggesting to you that his name was not in the newspapers on the Sunday. Did you check that, investigate that in any way?
No.
Did you check or investigate any aspects of your brother's account?
No.
You want to believe your brother because you love him. Sorry, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did you at all investigate or question anything that your brother said about the electronics or the explosives?
Did I question it?
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
Well, in any way. You haven't questioned much, so I'm just trying to find out if you questioned anything about what he was making.
He tried to explain to me what he was doing, but it was over my head.
Wagner was questioned why in her previous testimony she failed to mention that Smith's wife, Gwendolyn Jones, authored Chapter 6 of the book, Assassination, Cry of a Failed Revolution.
You were asked specifically what you wrote and what Gregory Smith wrote.
Right.
This chapter, from its inception,
Six.
appears to be the recollection of a person other than yourself
Exactly.
and other than Gregory Smith.
Yes. And this is...
You didn't think to disclose that to us yesterday?
Okay, the whole book has testimonies from people, everything else. So you would have to say, I have...
But like chapter 5, for example, states, this is a transcription. Gregory Smith, a recollection by Jomo Yearwood, and that's at page 61.
Right, and then I have his brother-in-law. I have dear brother-in-law, and dear friend, and I interviewed different people, and I got their input, telling me their view on who Gregory was, or their opinion who Gregory was, and the book is made up of people, what they say, what they know, what they saw.
Okay, I want you to join me at page 73 of the book, which is the chapter written by your sister-in-law.
But before we get to that, for the purposes of the, now that we're on it, can she give us any explanation as to why yesterday she did not tell us that chapter 6 was written by someone else?
Is there any reason why, in light of the direct questions you were asked about who contributed to the book, that you did not indicate that chapter 7 was authored by someone else? Six, I beg your pardon.
Stand at page 70.
I can answer that question.
That's her answer. I can't answer that question.
You
Because
can't answer the question.
the thing is, how it was put to me, and I didn't even realize that, because I know how I did the book. I interviewed people and I put information, but I put those things together in chronological order.
It was also pointed out to the Commission that there was no mention in Smith and Wagner's book that he returned to Guyana around June 1982 after being exiled in French Guyana. Commission Chairman Sir Richard Cheltenham said this may have some implications on the amount of accuracy and credibility attributed to the book. WPA attorney Christopher Ram sought to suggest that Smith's girlfriend, Joan Melvin, whose name was mentioned in previous testimonies, was offered a government transfer to a diplomatic post in the United States merely 2 weeks following the assassination of Rodney. He sought to suggest that the People's National Congress PNC government facilitated this act, as well as the escape of Smith to Kukwani the day after Rodney's death, June 14, 1980, in a GDF Islander aircraft, as testified by Captain Jerry Gavaya.
Did your brother give you incidents of torture of him by the WPA?
Yes, sir.
Could you say where that is recorded, where that is recorded in your witness statement?
There are, in the witness statement, Number 54.
Paragraph 54?
Yes, number 54, page 8.
And could you tell me?
What's the answer to that? Where is it recorded in the statement? Did she show you?
I just told him, it was number 54, page 8.
54.
Yes, and 55.
These were, and could you read what paragraph 54 states?
There were 11 attempts on Gregory's life from 1982 to 1999.
And Mr. Smith was residing where?
In Cayenne.
Yeah, but, I'm not following you. Help me to understand. Maybe my fault. How is this linked to the WPA?
That's the point I was coming to, sir. Do you have any personal information that the WPA was operating in Cayenne from 1982 to 1999?
The only information I have is the actual attempt that happened to my brother. He told me it wasn't anyone from Cayenne, it is Guyanese people who was attacking him.
So you have no personal knowledge of any attempt or any participation of the WPA in any of these events listed in paragraph 55. Is that correct?
My brother told me it was a WPA. He must know what he was telling me.
Wagner said her brother had told her that if he had died an unnatural death, it would have been at the hands of the WPA, whom he feared would harm him or his family.
Where is the evidence of torture in your witness statement?
You have the attachments of the brother-in-law that got his neck broken. I have an imposter who came to my house. It's attachment that was given.
When I asked you to give examples of the torture by the WPA, and you pointed it to the paragraph 54, is that correct?
Yes.
And then in paragraph 55, could you read what you said there?
The many attempts were made on Gregory's life. Most were documented. The attempts were as follows.
Carry on.
The motorcycle was tampered with in February 1981, resulting in an accident. His ankle and toes were damaged.
And you consider that as torture of Gregory Smith by the WPA?
Yes.
What evidence do you have?
This is what I was told.
Can you go on? The second bullet point.
Motorcycle was tampered with in 1982. In the resulting accident, his right hand was fractured.
And that you consider torture by the WPA?
Yes.
These events all took place in Cayenne?
Yes, sir.
In which country was the WPA based? I think you're getting some assistance from the back, but I suggest you ignore them.
Where they're based?
No.
Yes.
I didn't hear or see myself, but so far as they're speaking to the witness to try to track the witness expression and indicate something to her, You really should cease that right away, or we'll have to ask you to go. We're interested in the witness's testimony, not yours.
I think this is the second occasion in which...
It must be on aided testimony. Your helping her will not be of help to her.
Yes, ma'am. I ask you, in which country was the WPA based?
I guess Guyana.
Guyana. The first two incidents you refer to, February 1981, April 1982. Yet, a few moments later, Gregory Smith visits Guyana. Was this not reckless on his part?
I can answer that question.
But he was being tortured by the WPA.
Yes, he was.
Assistant Lead Counsel to the Commission, Lachmir Ahmad, summed up the day's proceedings.
Well, today we saw Ms. Ann Wagner under cross-examination. Under cross-examination, her evidence and the story she told yesterday that was told to her by her brother Gregory Smith was being tested. Ms. Wagner had told us that when Gregory Smith had returned to Guyana from Trinidad, he was given an envelope with passport, social security number, bank account numbers, and she was saying that this was done because the WPA, they wanted to get rid of him. And it is the WPA that he was afraid of. And she was told that it was the WPA, someone by the name of Brother Fowler, who had given these documents to her brother at the time. But when questioned by the chairman in relation to, forget who was the one that gave these documents, but look at the documents. You have a bank account, you have a passport in a different name, and you also have in there documents that will help you not only leave Guyana, but would set up another life for you. Are those things consistent with someone who is your enemy? Or are they consistent with someone who's trying to assist you? And Ms. Wagner accepted that those documents, if you look at what they were documents that were assisting him to leave the country. And further to that, she admitted that these documents, especially the passport, were documents that had to be issued by government officials. She was also questioned in relation to one of the documents that was laid over to the Commission during her evidence in chief. And this is a photocopy of a passport that she said was given to her brother and bore the name Cyril Milton Johnson. Now, this passport has in it a Guyana entry stamp dated the 19th day of June 1982. Now, this is almost 2 years after the death of Dr. Rodney. Clearly from the entry stamp, it shows that then Gregory Smith, traveling to Guyana under the name Cyril Milton Johnson and entering Guyana on the 19th of June 1982. This was compared with another document that Ms. Wagner supplied us with, which is a birth certificate that bears the name Cyril Milton Johnson, and that was also given to her brother, and her brother gave it to her, and she gave it to the Commission. Now, when we examine that document today, through counsel Mr. Pilgrim, that document was issued on the date, the 21st of June, 1982. Now, the correlation or the relation between these two documents that Mr. Pilgrim put to Ms. Ann Wagner is that clearly it shows that on the 19th of June, 1982, after the death of Dr. Walter Rodney, Gregory Smith traveled to Guyana under the name Cyril Milton Johnson, and on the 21st of June, 1982, just 2 days after he arrived here, he collected or was issued with a birth certificate in the name Cyril Milton Johnson, and then the passport stamp showed that he left Guyana on the 26th of June, 1982. Why is this significant? Because Ms. Wagner was questioned by counsel in relation to whether she had brought this to the attention of the commission before. She did not. It's not in her statement. And she did indicate that he told her he traveled to Guyana in 1982, but he told her in 1987. And she said she got very angry when he told her that, and she just didn't want to hear anything else. But Ms. Wagner was questioned in relation to if you were afraid and your brother was afraid of coming to Guyana and fear for his life, then why would he come to Guyana? And questions were asked of her in relation to whether Ms. Wagner ever asked her brother why it is he came to Guyana in 1982. And of course, Ms. Wagner said she never asked him those questions because she just didn't want to hear. She was already angry and upset because he had told her he came to Guyana, even though it was 5 years later that she was told. We also saw aspects of the book being put to her in relation to whether or not it stated he had come to Guyana in 1982. It is evident from the book that it does not reveal, even the portions that the witness said were written by Gregory Smith does not tell us that he came to Guyana in 1982. We also saw Mr. Ram, representing the WPA, question Ms. Ann Wagner. And he was questioning her on aspects of her evidence, and this is even contained in her written statement, in relation to these threats to the life of Gregory Smith and the acts of terror that were meted out to Gregory Smith at the hands of the WPA. Now, Ms. Wagner maintains that it was the WPA behind these attacks on her brother's life, and she maintains that even though they happened in Cayenne, it was the WPA that was behind them, and even though their base is in Guyana. However, what Ms. Wagner did accept under cross-examination is that everything that was told to her, she took no steps to verify the story told to her by her brother. She did not go to investigate each and every aspect of her brother's story in relation to him saying the WPA orchestrated all these things. Ms. Wagner also maintained that she was a very close confidant of her brother. And even though she was very close to her brother, she did in fact accept that when she said yesterday they spoke every day, that she just meant it as a phrase, that what she actually meant was they spoke regularly. Because when the questions were posed, if you didn't know in 1982 that your brother came back to Guyana, and you spoke every day, how do you explain that? And she said, well, it was just a figure of speech, which means that she did accept that they did not speak every day, but they were very close. And after asking questions in relation to, well, you were not aware that he came to Guyana in 1982, Ms. Wagner accepted that there might have been things that he kept from her. But she said he did tell her about the trip in 1987. Now, the cross-examination of Ms. Wagner is incomplete at this time. There's still a few more counsel to question her, and there's still a bit more of her evidence that has to be tested tomorrow. So we look forward to that.